Hello, all you freedom-loving people. The DOJ arrested U.S. soldiers for selling top military secrets to China. U.S. officials are planning to meet Ukrainian counterparts in Saudi Arabia, and Zelensky may return to the White House. Okay, let's get into it. President Trump's Middle East Special Envoy Steve Witkoff announced on Thursday that U.S. and Ukrainian officials are negotiating a meeting in Saudi Arabia next week to discuss the framework for a ceasefire agreement to end the war with Russia. Another administration official confirmed the meeting has been under discussion and is possible. However, Witkoff noted that the location of the meeting has not yet been decided. It could be in Riyadh or Jeddah. Witkoff also said because Zelensky's letter to President Trump expressed an apology and gratitude to the U.S., it was possible that the White House might resume intelligence sharing after the meeting. Witkoff said he's apologized. He said he's grateful. He said that he wants to work toward peace. I would think at some point, hopefully we get things back on track with the Ukrainians and everything resumes. Zelensky confirmed the meeting on X, but he didn't say that he will participate in the dialogue. Britain's Daily Mail on Wednesday reported that Zelensky, French President Macron, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will visit Washington, D.C. next week to meet with President Trump together. A French government spokesperson confirmed that Macron does have this intention. France is willing to fully assist Kiev and Washington to rebuild relations. Starmer also said he is doing everything he can to play his part. Since his visit to Washington last week, he has spoken with President Trump 3 times. He emphasized that in order to achieve lasting peace, the United States, Europe, and Ukraine must work together. However, sources at the Prime Minister's office at 10 Downing Street in London said that nothing has been finalized yet as to whether or not the Prime Minister will go to Washington with Zelensky. Witkoff said that another visit to Washington could still come. He said there is a path back, and President Zelensky has demonstrated that he is intent on that good faith path back. California Governor Gavin Newsom spoke with MAGA heavyweight Charlie Kirk on a podcast that aired on Thursday. He said it's deeply unfair for trans male athletes to play on female sports teams. Newsom told Kirk, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It's an issue of fairness. It's deeply unfair. Newsom said that he has 4 children of his own, including 2 daughters. Both he and his wife played sports at the collegiate level. His wife was a soccer player and he was a baseball player. He said, I revere sports, so the issue of fairness is completely legit. His provocative new position on trans male athletes shocked his party in his home state because it coincides with the point made by Republicans. They argue that transgender males must be banned from competing in school sports that are exclusively for female athletes in order to ensure fairness. Transgender rights has always been a difficult issue for the Democratic Party, and some believe it is one of the reasons the Democrats lost the 2024 election. The Trump team placed millions of dollars in ads attacking Kamala Harris for her support for taxpayer-funded transition-related medical care for detained immigrants and federal prisoners. One of the ads had the tagline, Kamala's for they, them, President Trump is for you. Newsom considered those ads to be President Trump's most effective political attack against Harris. In fact, many moderates believe that the Democratic Party has become overly inclined toward identity politics and ideological litmus tests. A Democratic strategist from a swing state who was granted anonymity to speak freely said, we just stepped too far out of the bounds and let the far left drive the narrative. Our own voters don't agree with the trans athletes in youth or college sports. The strategist sees Governor Newsom's remarks as positive for the Democratic Party. The strategist said, to have the governor of one of the bluest states come out and say this, saying our party has gone too far left, then it's a permission structure for other Democrats to do this too, to start saying publicly what people have been saying privately. Recent polls support moderation on this issue. According to Pew Research, while a majority of U.S. adults support policies that protect transgender people from discrimination, 66% of respondents favor requiring transgender athletes to compete on teams that correspond to their biological sex at birth. During the interview, Newsom also expressed sympathy for transgender people, noting that these poor people have higher rates of suicide and depression. The way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think is inherent in you but not always expressed on the issue, and at the same time deal with the unfairness? Governor Newsom's 75-minute interview has caused shockwaves because it is the polar opposite of his image in recent years. Newsom is a pioneer of LGBTQ+ rights. Decades ago, he upset Democratic leaders when he ignored state law and issued marriage licenses to same-sex couples. But this shift is not without reason. In the interview, he said that the influence of other MAGA figures like Kirk on his 13-year-old son distance him from the left's push for the pronoun and neutral term Latox, and he called the left's call to defund the police crazy. He also condemns cancel culture, and he agrees that there are some internal problems with the leadership of the Black Lives Matter organization. Also, Newsom may be the Democratic presidential candidate in the 2028 election. He doesn't want to be out of touch with the majority of Americans on this issue. He knows from his last campaign that as many as 90% of Americans disagree with Harris's stance. The FBI added a former Olympian and a Canadian national, Ryan James' wedding to its list of top 10 most wanted fugitives on Thursday. The Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs announced on Thursday that the U.S. is offering a $10 million reward for the return of Wedding. He is a man suspected of being involved in transnational drug trafficking and murder. The FBI is also offering an additional $50,000 for information leading to his arrest. Wedding represented Canada at the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, but he is now accused of running a transnational drug trafficking ring with an associate, Andrew Clark, who transported large quantities of cocaine from Colombia to Canada via Mexico and the United States. He is also suspected of masterminding a number of murders, including 3 in Ontario, Canada. His partner, Clark, was arrested by Mexican law enforcement last October, and he is being held in custody while Wedding remains at large. According to the FBI, Wedding has been hiding in Mexico for a long time. His criminal network often traffics hundreds of kilograms of drugs and has ties to Mexican drug cartels. On Thursday, the Department of Justice, the DOJ, announced that 2 active-duty U.S. Army soldiers and a former soldier were arrested in connection with an alleged scheme to sell military information to buyers in China. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement that the defendants are accused of betraying our country, actively working to weaken America's defense capabilities, and empowering our adversaries in China. They will face swift, severe, and comprehensive justice. The 2 soldiers were identified as Jian Zhao and Li Tian. They were both stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State. The officials also arrested former soldier Ro Yu Duan. Prosecutors allege that Zhao, who was a battery supply sergeant, stole several classified hard drives from the U.S. Army that were marked secret and top secret. Zhao allegedly sold 20 hard drives to a co-conspirator based in China for $10,000. During a conversation with a co-conspirator, Zhao said that he didn't know what the drives carried, but he assured the person that they were definitely governments and that there could be intelligence or nothing. Zhao was also accused of selling an encrypted, capable computer and sensitive military documents that were related to the high-mobility artillery rocket system. He also sold information that was related to the U.S. military readiness in the event of a potential conflict with China. In November of 2024, Zhao also allegedly took photos of a sensitive document that was part of a military exercise which simulated a conflict with China and other classified materials from his government-issued computer. He later tried to sell these photos to the co-conspirator. Prosecutors allege that since about July of 2024, Zhao has received payments totaling at least $15,000 from these illegal sales. In a separate case, Tien and Duan were accused of conspiring with one another to gather sensitive military information. Prosecutors found that between November of 2021 and December of 2024, they allegedly shared information that was related to U.S. military weapons systems in exchange for a payment. The information included the Bradley and Stryker U.S. Army fighting vehicles. FBI Director Kash Patel also issued a statement. Patel said, "While bribery and corruption have thrived under China's Communist Party, this behavior cannot be tolerated with our service members who are entrusted with sensitive military information, including national defense information. The FBI and our partners will continue to work to uncover attempts by those in China to steal sensitive U.S. military information and hold all accountable who play a role in betraying our national defense." Brigadier General Rhett Cox, who is the commanding general of the Army Counterintelligence Command, sounded the alarm. He warned that these arrests underscore the persistent and increasing foreign intelligence threat facing our Army and nation. Cox called on all Army members to increase their vigilance and report any suspicious activity within the military. Today, a South Korean court canceled the arrest warrant for impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. This paves the way for his release after 51 days in custody, following the announcement of a temporary moratorium or martial law in December of last year. Yoon Suk-yeol was arrested and was charged with rebellion in January. Yoon Suk-yeol filed a motion with the court last month to revoke the arrest warrant. He argued that the prosecution violated the law by indicting him after the expiration of his detention period. The court generally agreed with President Yoon that the period of detention should be measured in hours rather than days. The prosecution's indictment of Yoon Suk-yeol after the expiration of the detention period was procedurally unlawful. President Yoon was originally a prosecutor, so he knows the details of the law very well. The court also pointed out that the Senior Public Officer's Crime Investigation Office does not have the power to investigate the crime of rebellion. Moreover, this office and the Public Prosecutor's Office are two separate investigative authorities. The period of detention that was agreed upon by both parties had no legal basis and was not in accordance with legal procedures. In its statement, the Seoul Central District Court said that if the legality of the investigation process was not clarified, it might be a way for a higher court to overturn any trial court decision. However, President Yoon will continue to be tried in a non-custodial setting. Yoon Suk-yeol's lawyer said in a statement that the court's decision to revoke the arrest warrant shows that the rule of law still exists in this country. Legal experts say that while the decision by the district court is not a vindication of Yoon Suk-yeol, it does call into question the fairness of the indictment, and it touches on legal issues for which there is no clear precedent. As we have reported, President Yoon explained that he announced the curfew in order to alert the public to the infiltration of communism in Korea. CPAC chairman Matt Schlapp recently said that Yoon Suk-yeol revealed during a meeting with him in January that he only won the 2022 presidential election by about 1% due to the interference of Huawei, a company that is controlled by the CCP. And last week, a former member of the Korean legislature uploaded a photo of Matt Schlapp's February 19th speech on YouTube. At that time, Schlapp revealed that when he went to Korea, he asked Yoon Suk-yeol directly, several times, what happened to the presidential election in which Yoon Suk-yeol was elected. In the opinion polls, even though Yoon Suk-yeol was way ahead, he only won by about 1%. So what went wrong? Who is running the election in Korea? In the 20th presidential election of South Korea on March 10, 2022, the difference between Yoon Suk-yeol and Lee Jae-myung, the candidate of the Common Democratic Party, was only 0.8%, with a difference of only 250,000 votes. The small difference between the two candidates is unique in South Korea's constitutional history. After being pressed again and again, Yoon replied, Huawei. Huawei, with its close ties to the CCP regime, has been sanctioned in many countries around the world due to security concerns. The U.S. House of Representatives stated in 2012 that Huawei and ZTE could use their corporate equipment to conduct espionage or threaten core U.S. intelligence systems through the computer network, which would harm U.S. security interests. So the U.S. has banned the use of Huawei products by its own government agencies since 2018, and the U.S. has also begun blocking Huawei's participation in the construction of 5G networks around the world. Subsequently, more and more countries, such as Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and other countries, excluded Huawei from the construction of 5G in their countries. But LG U+, one of South Korea's top 3 communication companies, has stuck with Huawei equipment. This company is also responsible for building the communication network for early voting in the election. The CCP's involvement in foreign elections is widespread and has attracted much attention. A report was published by the National Center of Sweden in June of last year. It was entitled, "China's Foreign Election Interference: An Overview of its Global Impact." The report found that the CCP has interfered in many democratic elections around the world since the Cold War through political donations, United Front work, threats and intimidation, disinformation campaigns on the internet and in traditional media, and through cyber attacks. And interference is more common in countries with large Chinese populations. So Taiwan is one of the most important targets of the CCP's election interference, and there are also cases of CCP election interference in Canada, the United States, and Australia. Other affected countries include Korea, New Zealand, and the Philippines. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember that every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you, but please double check to make sure that you're still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they're somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We've also heard that many of you don't get notifications of our videos anymore on YouTube. So when you do subscribe on YouTube, please make sure to tap the notification bell as well. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.